for checking in on Black Beat. Welcome this afternoon. I got some serious guests in the house today. Yeah, my longtime friend and partner, Karanja Crews, the Executive Director for Teaching with Purpose, is in the house today with us. And he brought along a friend named Gary Hollands. And I don't know much about Mr. Hollands, but we're going to find out a little bit about him today. All right. Heavy hitter, I'm sure, because he got that heavy-hitting look on his face, But, established in 2001, Teaching with Purpose, the conference, responds to the lack of relevant multicultural education and proficiency-based teaching and learning practices within Oregon's educational system, despite state laws intended to infuse multicultural education into curriculum. It has been convening a network of educators, both teachers and administrators, parents, and community leaders to motivate, facilitate leadership development and align curriculum with culturally responsive practices that align with Oregon's equity laws, including Senate Bill 103, SB 739, HB 2192, SB 755, and OEIB's state equity license, or lens, I'm sorry about that. So together, they work to assess their individuals and their district current equity policy context, learn new paradoxical and organizational practices, develop a comprehensive theory of action for culturally responsive policies and practices, and develop a strategic implementation plan to meet ambitious equity goals. Damn, Karanja. But that was a tongue twister, man. I might have to go back and read that over again. But sitting here with me is Mr. Crews. Maybe he could outline some of that shit a little bit better for y'all. But hey, Crews, man, welcome, man. I do appreciate y'all.
Thank you for the invite.
Hey, man, talk to us a little bit about it. Bring us up to speed, man. Who's sitting here at this table with us, man, and talk to us a little bit about this.
Yes, sir. I'm sitting next to Director Gary Hollands, Director of the Portland Public School Board, co-chair, and successful business and entrepreneur here in Portland, Oregon. And highly admire and respect a lot of his work he's done in the community.
Man, this brother's sitting here quiet and poised and all that. I really never knew all that about him either. He didn't reveal that. You can always tell some of them country boys. He said he's from right around here.
No, he's from Northeast Portland.
But they country boy then.
He's born and raised.
Hey, man. Right on. Thank you, man. I appreciate you coming, Gary. Man,
It's my pleasure.
So come on, Crews, let's chop it up, man. What's the thoughts about this Teaching with Purpose this year, man?
Yes,
it sounds like there's some really exciting stuff going on.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys talking about the history, established in 2001. I was, I believe, 22, 23 years old. It was a response of the crisis team who was protesting against the school board of the achievement gap, and definitely inspired by the great leader, Ron Hurden, Senator Abel Gorley at the time. In the late 90s, we had a lot of community meetings. This was in the thick of the gang violence in Portland. And I remember this particular meeting, and it was a young lady who said, we need to know about our history. And Senator Abel Gorley at the time took that to heart, and she worked very hard to get a bill passed called SB 103, which is a multicultural education bill that kind of pretty much still kind of sits on the shelf. A lot of districts don't really implement it. So Teaching with Purpose is an organization that's trying to activate these bills that we have in place and put a little bit more teeth and accountability to them, because they look good, but there's no accountability connected to it.
So what's your take on the state of education in the state of Oregon these days, Crew?
It's the same as 2001 in terms of, and before that, in terms of, as we look at statistics and the disproportion of discipline data, if we look at achievement proficiency data, it's the same. It has not, changed over the years. However, I do see a silver lining in terms of the intentionality changing in terms of, we have a center of Black student excellence, and we have all these different initiatives that's looking and trying to focus more on Black students, but we still have a long way to go in terms of connecting that to what it looks like in the classroom, connecting that to accountability, and connecting that to really measuring real growth in students and seeing real results. So, that's part of the work.
So what I'm hearing you say is BIPOC students are still facing a whole heap of issues, an uphill battle, trying to get educated in this system here in the state of Oregon these days, huh?
Absolutely, and it's a direct correlation to, look at the prison population. Look at what, we're 3% in Oregon, but over 13% in the juvenile detention centers and even in prison, adult prisons. And it's a direct correlation. So if you look at what's happening in education and then you look at what's happening with our justice system and the prison system, it's a direct alignment. And, it's unfortunate.
Man, Crews, I admire the work that you've done. I mean, because it definitely has been innovative. So how long has this been going on now for you? How long has the Teaching with Purpose conference been going on?
Yeah, so 2001, it was established. I was I wasn't even a grad student, undergrad student at Portland State. I was part of the NAACP education committee.
Yeah, I remember you came out here hitting hard.
And
so but just made you a name. Just step right out there and say, look here, something is not right. We got to figure out a way to fix it.
That it was definitely divine. I feel like, God definitely put that on my heart, the name and everything. I saw the vision. So we put that together. The first speaker was Bob Moses. You know who Bob Moses is? Bob Moses is a great civil rights icon. He created the Algebra Project later on in his years, but he was a part of the voting. Remember the buses that were going deep into Mississippi trying to register people to vote and things like that? He was all part of that movement, SNCC movement, and then from there he created the Algebra Project. So he was our keynote speaker at the time. And we also had a lady named Harriet Ball, and she created this teaching method called Rap, Rhythm, and Rhyme. And I don't know if you guys heard of the KIPP Academy charter schools, but they blew up in the early 2000s. There's a lot of KIPP academies now throughout the country, but they were student teachers in her classroom, and they pretty much took her whole model in terms of how she taught math in a rhythm way, because in a sense, we're rhythm people, and we're souls, right? We have souls. So she disconnected all that and was able to put that into a teaching method and pedagogy, and she was able to, get great results with our kids. So they took that and took the rhythm aspect of how you teach, and they created a whole movement called KIPP Academies.
Yeah, that pedagogy thing, man, I think, did you coin that or did somebody else coin it? It wasn't, I'm serious, because we didn't hear it. Prior to you coming into the game with this one, we didn't hear that pedagogy shit going on. But tell us a little bit about what that means, actually.
It's just a teaching method, right? So pedagogy is just a way you would teach something, pretty much. It's a philosophy. It's a way, right? So it's a theory.
So the substance of Teaching with Purpose, Crews, what makes this process more authentic and different than, say, any formalized form of education practice? What's the unique twist on this?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. So it started out as a conference, and I stopped teaching. I stopped doing the conference in 2001, and I became a teacher.
And you was a math teacher or something, wasn't you?
No, elementary. Yeah, so I had to teach with purpose from 2002 all the way until 2010. And I was being in the classroom, being in the trenches. I taught at the Young Men's Academy at Jefferson High School in the early mid-2000s. And I was seeing the same problems since 2001. And I was like, and I'm in the system now. And I'm like, what is going on? We're not seeing nothing changed. And I'm now being in the system, I'm noticing why nothing is changing. It's like, I don't know if you guys ever seen the book, heard of the book, The Spook Who Sat by the Door.
Oh, yeah.
So I was
a few times, actually, I had a living purpose with that one.
You know, I feel like I was the spook who, you know, sat by the door, or in my experience as a classroom teacher, being in the system. So I learned the inner workings of it. And I noticed that everything trickles down, and the bottom line is what happens in the classroom is the bottom line. And so I focused on that. So I was like, you know, I wanted to make my classroom the best classroom. So I did that, but then I was noticing once they leave my classroom, everything that I was instilling inside of them was being undone, because I was just like, so that's the part that I saw in the system. I was like, okay, me just being in the classroom is not going to make a great enough impact, because even though I'm pouring into these young people and I'm giving them information they may not be receiving anywhere else, it's still being undone because of the way the system is structured. So that's when I got my epiphany in 2010. I was like, you know what, we have to bring this conference back. So I brought the conference back in 2011. So it's been going consecutively since 2011.
So my understanding is, and I may be off on this one, but you can help me. So, but the one unique thing I got from the 1 year or the 2 years that I attended your conference, and that was looking at not just pedagogy, but the whole idea of relating culture to education. Talk to me a little bit about that integration, man, and what made that significant for you in the transition as you were moving forward with this process?
Yeah, so there's a term called culturally relevant pedagogy. Is that pedagogy word again?
Yeah, that's all right. You definitely brought it to the house. For sure.
So one of my favorite scholars, I read her book. It's called Dream Keepers. And so I was able to bring her as a speaker because I saw in, for example, Portland Public at the time, we were using the term culturally relevant, and I was like, do we really know what this means? I was like, okay, do we really know what culturally relevant pedagogy means? So I was like, let's bring in the person who coined the term, you know, and have her be a keynote and teach us what it means. But basically, what it is in a nutshell, it's a way you teach. It's so many different types. Right? You have culturally responsive, which is Dr. Geneva Gay's work in Seattle. She is more so looking at the curriculum and how the curriculum responds to us culturally. Culturally relevant pedagogy is the way you teach, right? So it's like integrating the social justice aspect of it, building relationships with your students, going to their extracurricular activities, going to their track meets, going to their games, building that relationship with them and their community. And then it's the curriculum as well. It's the relevant content. Like, for example, you know, we're all business owners, and we're at a time where we're looking at resumes, but we're not really noticing high level, what's the word I'm looking for? High level professionals and employees, because
journeymen, just people on the top of the end,
and I'm, you know, I think it's all in the result of that, of the school system.
Well, you know, Mr. Crews, I gotta honestly tell you that changed the way I saw growth in education, and I think that's really important. What I've come to find out, especially somebody that has a clinical background, and the realization was how significant of a transformation occurred in students when they had some sense of identity related to the education, you know, some cultural significance in relationship to that. And that changed my whole view on how I dealt with people, man, in education and human development, man. I mean, because, you know, you learn about Christopher Columbus and you go, well, damn, Plymouth, what? They landed on who? You know, where? But then you lose it from that point, you know, because there's no significance, you know, other than me being the victim of that boat. You know, I don't want to learn so much more about this. But when you start showing me the significance of the growth reality, or the trajectory, or the phenomenon that allows me to advance myself as a human in relationship to an environment that's hostile toward me, it was real significant that I had to have something else to help me grow and come and develop within that construct. And so this part of it really did add a transformation to it. So what's this year bringing to the conference, Crews? What's happening with that?
Yeah, I'm excited. For the last 5 years, I feel like it's been a little bit of stagnant in terms of the progression of the conference. We got hit with the pandemic, so a lot of it was online. So this will be the first year we're back in person. So we're in the hunt of looking for a location right now. So I'm super excited about that, just being back in person and not having the online conferences for the last three years.
That was different.
You know,
so who's the special guest you bringing to the house, man, with this conference this year? You don't want to drop it. You don't have to drop it, but boy, it's a hard rock. I don't know. You can't hold it in your hand too long.
Man, I want to start with the other two speakers, dynamic speakers I have. I have Dr. Sandy Womack. He's a deputy superintendent in Ohio. This brother has a complete track record of turning schools around. Like, he started from the classroom to schools to school districts. Now he's a deputy superintendent. He's looking for a superintendent position somewhere in the country. But he has a book called basically urban renewal in education. So basically he has a whole roadmap of how we can turn the whole district around. So he's going to come and present. We have Principal Kafele, who is a dynamic speaker. He also has a great track record in turning schools around. He's from Jersey.
Well, what was old boy from Eastside High School that locked the door? I remember that, brother. By the way, I was in school when he was doing it, but I was at Kennedy at the time.
Yeah. So Principal Kafele, and then we have the great, dynamic Angela Davis.
Lord, did you hear what this man just said?
Angela Davis.
Miss Davis herself is coming to the house.
Coming to Portland, Oregon.
Now, what is she trying to do? Shake the tree or shake up the tree?
You know what? It's time. Now, I feel like this is right on time.
Hey,
especially with all the great initiatives the district is doing around Black student excellence. I feel like everything is aligning up right now.
Right on. But let's get Gary in here, Ms. Hollands. What's your thoughts about all of what you've been hearing, man? And again, welcome to the house, my brother. I appreciate you coming in and chopping it up with us a little bit, man.
Thank you.
But what was your thoughts about what Crews has been saying about education? And tell us a little bit about yourself, man, and your background. I hear that you got some serious work going on, in the state these days, man.
I try. Gary Hollands, I'm born and raised here in Portland, Oregon. I have an organization called Interstate Trucking Academy. We try to get minorities and women into the trucking industry through a way of getting their CDL license. We have a program right now that we've been running for about 5 years that pays for the class, it pays for their licenses, it pays for everything they need to get without having a financial barrier to obtain their license. We help them with job placements. We're sitting around about an 89% job placement rate right now.
Wow, that's pretty good, man.
A year. So that's kind of what I do, as my day job. Education of kids is my passion.
That's a hell of a passion to have, boy.
Yeah.
Educate.
When you come up, and there's a lot of stuff that Mr. Crews was talking about, that culturally relevant experience. When I came up through Irvington and then I went to Whitaker, well, that's where I had my first Black teachers.
Wow.
Right? That's where I had folks who looked like me, who understood what I was going through in the community, especially during this time of drugs and gangs that was popping off at that time.
It was big time back in there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So being able to have them and them who understood what I was going through, understood what was going on in the community, and then they could wrap their arms around you and say, hey, you know what, you can go this way, you can go that way, you have choices, you have options, and help you guide them. Then I got up to Benson and I had a couple Black teachers there, and they really challenged you to move beyond what you see, and that can only be done through someone who understands who you are, understand what you're going through, understand what you need to do to get to that next level. And that's, the piece why I got into education and for kids. I joined the board for that exact purpose, is that, I see our kids coming out, but they're not coming out to the standards that we used to come out at. They're not coming out being able to, have conversations and hold conversations and understand processes and procedures. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then when I look at the achievement data, it's just worse, and it hasn't gotten better since, I believe, Dr. Prophet was the superintendent of Portland Public Schools. So I wanted to get involved. I wanted to figure out what can I do to help move this needle forward. And so that's one of the reasons why I jumped on got elected to Portland Public School Board.
So you are actually on the Portland School Board?
Yes.
Right on. For how long have you been there?
2 years.
It's been 2 years. And it's how long a term is it?
4.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So what significant impact or strategic agendas or that you've been able to manage to implement and support or whatever? What's real?
Well, one of the things that we're focusing on is our black youth, specifically our black men.
Ooh, boy, you just hit a nail on the head.
I mean, we're looking at 3rd grade reading, we're looking at 5th grade math, and how do we shore up those before they move on to the rest of their educational experience. And I think for us, it's intentionality, but it's intentionality with accountability, and one of the things that has I found really shocking to me with the district, and I'm now part of the district, is the lack of accountability.
On who? The teaching,
everyone,
the structure, all of it?
From the board all the way down to the janitors. Because when you look at accountability, if our kids don't learn, what happens? Don't nobody get fired, don't nobody get laid off, our kids just don't learn. And so when you talk about accountability, you have to be able to talk about accountability within the process of educating our kids. This is our job. This is our only job. A lot of people get paid very well to do this job. And when this job is not done, then that's where we have to start looking at the accountability piece and what that looks like. I think, we have a superintendent who came in with a great strategy. The implement, of course, COVID happened, but the implementation piece is going to be the key of our movement and moving that needle for our black kids, and also to make sure we're keeping that as the forefront. We have some staff who is looking to really shake up some stuff and change some stuff. And hopefully come June, we got a great board now, but I think our board will hopefully be strengthened in that resolve to make sure that we're keeping our black kids in the forefront. And so that's a little bit about me and a little bit of why, I got on the school board.
I mean, Gary, I appreciate that, and on the board, but there's a glaring elephant in the living room, and it's not necessarily a negative one, but I'm interested in y'all take on this one. And I'm sure y'all recently heard the news over the last couple of days about this $400 million that Phil Knight done dropped into the purse of Oregon. Well, not Oregon, in this program that they're building up. I forgot the name of 1803. 1803. And, and that it's outlined that education is a priority in that package. So what's y'all thoughts about that?
I think it's great. I think I feel like it's a full circle commitment, right? Especially after seeing the movie Air. I don't know if you guys saw that movie. It's a good movie. Phil Knight, if you look at it, he gained his wealth from black people.
Exactly.
Literally.
Yeah, that's what Eminem say.
So, when Michael Jordan came on, he boosted their sales quadruple, and kind of set Nike to where they are now. So I thought it was pretty powerful. I felt like it was a full circle moment. And plus, Phil Knight is born and raised here in Portland. He went to Cleveland.
Wow.
Cleveland High School. So, he's from the town, and he's connected with people who was born and raised from the town as well. That's over the 1803 project, and I'm pretty sure they're going to do some great work.
Well, is there a specific place you see that money should be earmarked for in education? Is there a category?
Well, it looks like it's already. is already earmarked to 1803. So whatever 1803, whatever they decide they want to do.
Around education, y'all ain't got no thoughts or suggestions on where some of that money should go?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily thoughts or suggestions. I think it's having the right people leading that is going to be the key. You know, having Rakaya there, I think that's the right person to be able to maneuver and distribute that money where it should go. She has a heart for the city. She has a heart for her people. And I don't think you can have a better person that's going to be over that to be able to make the moves that is necessary. Not the moves that looks good, not the moves that people might want her to do, but the right moves to help move our folks as a people.
Well, I was a little bit uncomfortable with it. Not uncomfortable with the actually allotment of the money, but, Phil Knight's, that whole navigation, I mean, because, we do economic development around here just like most of us we do, but the whole idea of the store, their flagship store being closed in their district, right? And I thought that was kind of interesting that the store closed up. And usually that's an economic driver for our district, right? It brings people into the district. They got to spend some money someplace. They get hungry. They got to go somewhere. But then the store closed down. No one knew that the store closed down. And then all of a sudden we turn around, there's a $400 million investment in the district. Now, is that a trade-off, a good trade-off, not bad trade-off? I don't know. But it just seems a little bit interesting how that dynamic worked its way out. And it's just a question that I have for it because, we are the business association around here, and the whole idea is to keep business flowing, and keep it going. But, all in all, I think the earmark for the dollars as it comes into specifically to help develop the lower Albina district, I think that says a whole lot, and it's not that it was a first time. This thing has been in motion because I remember that SCI and Tony and them went after this for $50 million a while back there, and it got denied. And then now all of a sudden we came back around and this thing has dropped. So obviously they do have, the Albina has some momentum going, and it's and I would agree with you. I think Rakaya is definitely a key player, and because I remember when they talked about the original $50 million investment in her, and that everybody was confident in the reality that Rakaya would be able to turn $50 million into a whole lot more.
I believe it.
Oh, yeah.
So, I believe it. I mean, when you got track records, you got track records.
Right. So, Build Black Better, right? That's the focus of our agenda this coming quarter. And what does that mean to you guys in terms of education, building Black better?
For me, is just to piggyback on Director Hollands, is accountability in our system. To me, we really need to establish that. If we really want to see outcomes, we have to have accountability, because what is currently in place is not working.
It's broken. It's broken in a big way. So talk to me about leadership, y'all. Heading a company. Y'all both business people. Y'all been around, man. Tell me the significance. What's y'all's perception of the significance of leadership in this space, in this time, when it comes to us as men, at the ages and the education and the knowledge that we've had and the commitments and the things that we've invested over the years in our community and our neighborhood? What's leadership looking like today with y'all? What's your thought about that?
I think for me, it's more of us coming together. Right, we have businesses that do great things, but for me, it's us coming together to form that economic base. And I've said this before: I feel that us as a people don't have a real economic base to work off of. When you look at other communities, they have an economic base that they're starting from. And as when we talk about leadership, is that leadership with collaboration that helps us build the economic base, so then we can go off and do our other things. When they were talking about the whole Nike store, I think it was great because it brings dollars into our community. But if we have our own economic base, then we can be feeding our own communities.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that part.
That's when I look at the leadership piece, is that you have to come together to build that economic base. And one of the things that hopefully this money does is help us build that economic base for us as a people. So then we can do this stuff on our own. We
Man,
can have stores, we can have hospitals. We can do all that stuff for ourselves. We can have the Kairoses and the Hollas out there educating our kids. That's what comes from that economic base.
You know, Hollands, I'm a jock today, right? And on this mic with you, but you know, man, I'm nobody's fool. You hear what I say? And I find myself so paradoxically bound up, right, to have to say the right things in the room at the right time when it comes to talking about my people, is that you can't rock the boat, right? It's not okay to rock the boat today. Everybody got to get along, act like they, blah, blah, blah. Right? But to me, that's some bullshit, you know, because there's some truths and then there's some truths that ain't truths. You know, and I think that it's a little bit deeper than that, because I see that there's a lot of things being played out in our community that we ain't talking about. And, you know, the number one thing you talked about was black men. You know, the significance of us and how this growth process that we're having, to me, it just makes it seem like we chasing the money bag today. The transition is everybody's after the money bag, and the belief is that the foundation of our success is rooted in money. Now, I got a little bit of an issue with that. You know, because, yeah, it's going to help. No doubt. Don't get me wrong. I ain't going to turn down not 400 million. I don't care. I would tell 400 You know what I'm saying? But the question still remains is our, you know, man, I did some work earlier with the Native American tribes before they got gaming, right? And the significance of that work was to establish social service foundations for these tribes who were having difficulty prior to having money. I mean, there was incest, there was drug and alcohol abuse, there was all kinds of physical and domestic violence, there was all kinds of stuff. And we all knew that the minute you take a whole lot of money and drop it in the hands of those people who have those kinds of issues, that it's just going to exacerbate that. So you need to be able to address the foundation of some of those things. Do y'all believe that we are prepared to receive a windfall to change our lives, our community's lives, and the people that live in it, just by receiving money? Is that what makes us prepared to make that transition and shift? Excuse me, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate with this one, man, because I'm not naive. I've been around here a little bit, not just here, but I've been alive long enough to understand that money ain't just a solution to something.
I think you need the education. As well. You need to know how to keep it. You know, keep the money. Well, for example, right, so you talked about leadership. So, all right, when will the freeway be complete?
Well, that's going to be, I think, 35, somewhere around, well, no, not 35. Let's see, the way they have it, I think somewhere in 28.
Yeah, 28, 29.
So 2028. Yeah. When will Jeff be redone, like Jeff and Tubman and all of that stuff? What year?
I think that's supposed to be 26, 27.
So 26, 27, then we have 28, 29 freeways.
Right.
Any other
Hill
big?
Block. Well, the Hill Block should be done up here. I mean, there's a lot of majors, about 5 major development projects.
So when is the Hill Block? When is that?
The Hill Block should be done in the next 2 years, within the next 2.
All right, so I said, so we're in 2023. So I said all that to say, so imagine if we really, like you said, be intentional, and we focused on a group of young people, right? And we focused on a particular relevant content education that we're gonna, economic base type of education. And we're gonna track them all the way until maybe like 2030, 2035, right? When all of this stuff is all done,
is
right?
Manifested, yeah.
So, because we need, we need the next generation, right, to be able to sustain this. So, to me, it's like we need to come together and we need to have that type of foresight of like, okay, this is what the future is going to look like. Okay, we need to start preparing now and preparing our young people, even our 20-year-olds, even our college students, right? Even focusing on them in the next 10 years. And so we can be able to easily transition that and so they can sustain.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk back to your point too, right? When you talk about, is it just money that, will make a people enhance or grow, It's not just money. It's everything, right? You can't take one and it'd be singular it's going to help. It's going to take money, it's going to take social service, it's going to take self-evaluation, it's going to take community accountability as well, right? So it's all of those things that it's going to take. So you can't have community accountability and we're keeping our folks accountable, whether it's gangs or drugs or the gun violence that's happening, but then you tackle that issue, but then you have no jobs for them to do. One that I heard the statement before was that, there's not a whole lot of shooting when people are going to work. Right? And so
when you're tired.
Right. You over 8 hours a day, you ain't trying to write
you
up.
might shoot the dog, but
right?
you ain't going to shoot nobody else.
It takes all of those things, the education piece, it takes all of them simultaneously. And that's why I say you have to work collectively to attack all of those things. Yes, the money is great and it's important because that's a resource. But like my dad used to always tell me, money for him is just like a tool, just like a hammer.
Just like an instrument.
I'm not going to trip if I lose a hammer or whatever. I'm just going to get another one. So money is just fluid for all the other stuff, but you can't have one without the other. You can't have community accountability. You can't have education without all of those things working together. And I think that's why it's important when you have someone like Karanja who's working on education of our kids. You have other business leaders who are working on that piece. You have people like Rakaya. You have people like AVT. You have people like SEI. All of those should be together to look at what are we doing, holistically for our folks. Raymore Construction, Colas Construction. When you have all those entities working together in tandem, it's almost like a relay race. Everybody got their lane and their part to do, but they pass it off and make it complete.
And I like that notion of that. But, sometimes when we started out, even when you started out with Teaching with Purpose, the last 9 years, say, we look back 9-10 years, the conversation of collective bargaining agreement, right, us coming together collectively was raising all boats. And then, of course, the Trader Joe's issue really reflected how those deals struck in the back rooms was affecting us in adverse ways, right? But now, do y'all think that process has come and gone, that collective reality, or are we back to the siloing and covert kinds of backroom deals to make things happen? Or do y'all all feel that we are all coming together as a community of black people or BIPOC, however y'all want to coin it, to collectively raise all boats, or do you think it's still siloed?
It's definitely silo to me. And we were just talking about this. I feel like we lost our community. Like, I don't feel like we have a, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. Like this, strong community.
Is that the fragmentation?
Yeah. We're all like in survival mode. I think we're all.
Is that what that is? It looked like it's survival, but because it looked like there's a hell of a lot of resources out there. But we still feeling that need to survive.
Yeah.
I think parts of it is siloed, but I think there's a group of folks trying to get together as well. So I
agree.
Both and, right?
Yeah.
If we look 10 years ago or 15 years ago, you look at some of the products that came out of that's taking place now, right? Getting out of slavery of 400 years, it still takes a while for us to get there. So I think we're still on that trajectory of getting there. And at different times, it's going to look different. It's going to look silo-y. It's going to look collaborative. It's going to look all these different ways. But I think we're all doing both and at this time. They're going to take those back deals, to get this. But then those folks come together to affect the broader community. So I think it's the both and.
So right on, yeah, Gary, and I want to maintain the optimism also. Man, I do believe that, but I do believe that there are some core-based issues that I'm glad you brothers are addressing in your process, in your business, and that is to somehow or another support the conceptual understanding of the construct to reintroduce black men back into our communities, back into our families, and back into our rightful places in terms of having some sense of dignity, self-respect, and contribution, and so any process in my mind right now that is affording us the ability to reintroduce us and put us back into those rightful positions, I'm 100%, 150% behind. So that's really important for us. So But let's talk about what it's taken. Y'all successful to some degree. What has it taken for y'all to get to the goal? You know, in some of these, and I know Crews, you've worked tirelessly, man, and hitting up against some of this wall of resistance. And, you know, what's it feel like now to have a little bit of a breathe? You don't know what it's like to have to breathe the room at this point.
Breathe the room yet.
You still on the grind,
Oh
huh?
my goodness, yes sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So, gentlemen, man, this has been really great, man. I really do appreciate y'all coming in, man, and kicking it. But hey, man, is there anything that I'm missing at this conversation that as we look back on this dialogue and we think about it, what would be some of the things y'all wished I would have asked, or some of the things y'all might want to share with our listeners at this point in time? And I start with you, Crews. So what were some things that you might want to share that we didn't chop it up about so far here today?
I want to talk more about like the future, and where we're going, and where do we want to go?
Yeah.
Like you said, I feel like it's a lot of opportunities, and I think more to come.
Yes.
But you know, it's not strategic. We're all like just chasing after it.
Right.
But if I don't know, I just feel like we need to really think about where we're gonna be by 2050, because what I've read is that Black people will be at a zero net worth by 2050. I don't know where they're getting these projections from, but you know, as I look around, you know, I look and see how our young people are being educated, because I'm in the trenches. Like I'm in the classrooms. Like I see what's happening. I'm in the hallways. Like, and I'm like, man, and I'm thinking about the compound interest of that, right? So, so if we're just doing that constantly each year, and then I'm looking at the future. I'm like, man, like this is not adding up. So I just feel like it's kind of like going like this. We're just like getting further behind. So I feel like we need to
equal the playing field somewhere.
Intentions. We need to change our intentions and really think about the future. You know, it's not just Black history, but we need to be Black future. Like, what do we want to envision? Like, what do we envision? What do we want to go and accomplish? I think that needs to be our mindset now, and we need to start planting the seeds now, start tilling the ground now, because you know, the way I'm seeing things now, to be honest with you, I'm afraid of the future, to be honest with you. Like, I'm looking, I'm in the trenches, and I'm like, oh my God. Like,
real talk.
So that's you know, my perspective.
Gary, what's your thoughts?
Oh, no, I think we have to be honest with the intentions are, right? We have to be honest on the things the forces that's coming against us, right? You know, you look at systemic racism, you look at racist policies and practices. We have to address those.
And they're getting worse. They're not exactly getting better, it appears, huh?
You know, so we have to really address those. And like Karanja was saying, we have to strategize, because we know that's there, right? We know it's there. We have to strategize. How do we pass the baton off to the next person? How do we pass off to our kids and our grandkids, you know, and keep it moving, that momentum moving forward? So I'm totally in agreement with that, but we just have to be able to identify it, recognize it, strategize, and then act.
Yeah, you know, guys, I do appreciate that notion. And I think for me, one of the greatest things that I've ever heard was that the most important part of our lives is in front of us right about now, not behind us. And I do believe that the work that you brothers are putting in, as well as a number of other our community leaders and people, is that I think change will be affected, especially with our children. You know, when I think about your kids, Karanja, I think about mine, yours, is that we have definitely impressed them somehow. You know, and looking at the landscape of the future. And I may not be here, you know, it's so funny when you think about Martin Luther King when he made that speech about I may not be there, you know, when you get there, right? but you know, I'm looking at the eve of that reality myself today, and I'm going, I may not be there with you when you get there, but let me give you a little bit of something on the way there. You hear what I say? Let me pass on a little bit of knowledge to you. And that knowledge that I would pass on to them is that, yeah, it's great to wake up and have a pocket full of money, but a fool and his money will soon part. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, but anyway, y'all, I do appreciate y'all coming and kicking it up with old brother man today. Chris, it's always good to see you, boy.
Yeah, likewise.
And congratulations, y'all. Keep the work going. Much success to you. And this Teaching with Purpose thing may travel the world. Yes. You hear what I say?
Yes.
And I appreciate y'all. And thank y'all for listening to Black Beat Podcast today. My name is John Washington, and I'm your host. Y'all have a great afternoon. You hear? Thank you.